Hi everyone, my name is Katie Hennessy. I work in the Marketing and Communications Office as a Schools Liaison Officer, and I'm joined here now today by Caroline Bargery to talk all about financial assistance. So hi Caroline, how are you?
Hi, Katie. How are you today?
I'm good. So we'll just go straight into it. So I'm just going to talk to you all about financial assistance and all the questions that we get in from our students throughout the year about financial assistance. So the first question that I have for you is, tell me all about the access service.
Right, okay. So very briefly, the Access Service is part of Student Services as a whole at LIT. It's one of the services that is there to support students. Now, we are, I suppose, a little bit different from some of the services in that we offer pre-entry initiatives and post-entry supports to students. So, for example, in terms of pre-entry, we would work very closely with community organisations and schools and development organisations in terms of supporting students along the journey towards third level. So for example, that could be study clubs, it could be like projects with schools, where we would have primary school and secondary school children coming on campus. And also, and then they're with us along the journey. So that's kind of the pre-entry focus, very briefly, and then the post-entry focus is about supporting students once they're actually on campus. Okay, so kind of the two linked together. So I'm very conscious that today the focus is about the post-entry supports for students once they're in at LIT.
Perfect. Yeah, and a lot of questions that we get off students is what sports services are available, the financial support that are available to the students when they are on campus or in LIT.
Right. Okay. So we'd be very conscious that college can be very expensive, for students, and sometimes it can put a lot of strain on students and their families. So we would offer a number of initiatives and supports to students just to help them out. In that it's a support to the other supports. For example, like the Susie grant would be an example of support that would come from government, and then we would be like an additional support to that. Okay. So I briefly go through some of them then, Katie, just maybe starting with the Student Assistance Fund. Okay, if you want me to talk about that first of all. So the Student Assistance Fund, it's a government funded scheme. It's been in existence for quite a number of years, and we've been operating it at LIT for a long, long time. So the Student Assistance Fund is like a supplement really for students. It wouldn't cover it by any means all the costs of when they're in college or anything like that, but it's an extra fund there to support students while they come in. And it could be, for example, helping towards like rent or things like that, travel. So students would use it for that. And now it's not there, I must just say that it's not there like for fees or registration fees or anything like that, or tuition fees. It's not for that purpose. It's kind of like a supplement, we'll say to Susie, we'll say living grant as such to support students in their living expenses. So the Student Assistance Fund, what you do is, Katie, you would go on, there at the top of the LIT website, right, there are a number of tabs, and one of them is Life at LIT. So underneath that tab, there are a number of support services like access, counselling, the medical service, the learning support unit, and the chaplaincy service. And if you click into access there, you go down along and you'll see another section called financial supports. When you go in there, you click on the Student Assistance Fund, and that will give you all of the information on the Student Assistance Fund, how to apply for it. We are constantly updating our information. We have to abide by the regulations that are determined by the Department of Education. So at the moment, the fund isn't opened. It'll be opened the first week in October for students. So they can go in there and they can apply there online. Now again, that there is an eligibility criteria for that fund, I must stress, Katie, as well. So you must fulfill the eligibility criteria to apply for the fund. But again, all that information will be up online when the application form goes live.
Okay, brilliant. So as you were saying there, you go onto the lit.ie website to
That's
apply
right.
for the assistant fund. And
Yeah.
where do students send their supporting documents?
Yeah, okay, so that's actually a really good question, because this year obviously things are very different with COVID, and we're very conscious of the safety of students and of staff. So in previous years, what would have happened is that students would have dropped in their support supporting documentation to the Access Service. But unfortunately, this year we can't have that system. So what happens is we have set it up, or it will be set up when it goes live, that you'll actually be able to upload all your documents with your application form. So there won't be the paper coming over and cross between, the students. And it'll be probably easier for students that way as well, and that they won't have to come up maybe to the Access Service to drop it in. So they'll be able to upload all their documents there as well. And I suppose if students have any queries about that fund, what I would suggest is they email saf@lit.ie. Okay, so at lit.ie.
Brilliant. Yeah. So they send their supporting documentation through by email, and when they send their supporting documents through by email, do they get called for an interview, or what is the process then that goes on after that?
Right. So what happens is, there will be just a facility with the application form where you just upload it. So the documentation won't even have to be sent in separately. They'll just upload as part of the document. There is no interview process for the Student Assistance Fund. Again, there's eligibility criteria that students must fulfill for that, and then their applications are assessed based on that. Okay, so there's no interview process.
Okay, brilliant. That's great. So other than the Student Assistance Fund, are there any other financial supports that students can access in LIT?
Yeah, so for example, there are a couple of different schemes, like, we have a number of mature students, delighted to say, at LIT. And so there is a mature student, for example, book lending scheme that students can apply for as well. So you have to be obviously a mature student to apply for that scheme. So that's in conjunction with the library services at LIT. So if students want to go again into the Access tab under Life at LIT, they will see beside the financial assistance section there's mature student book lending scheme. They can apply for that. There is also another fund. Now I'll mention it, but it's not part of the Access Service, okay, just so students are aware of it. And it's an emergency fund, but it is for emergency situations only. And if students want to find out more about that, they need to email the chaplaincy service at LIT. And again, under that life, I think that Life at LIT tab is just crucial for students, where they'll be able to find all of their information around their supports that they need. And I suppose, Katie, just this year as well, if I could get the message across, that keeping abreast of the website and developments on the website, and more than ever, we need to make sure that students are actually checking their emails, their student email accounts, so that then, they're not missing out on important information. Or, for example, if students send something in as part of their documents for the SAF, we need to be able to communicate with that student. So students need to be checking their emails quite regularly. So I'm actually glad that you're bringing this up in terms of the other supports that are available.
Yeah, absolutely. So two things that I've definitely gathered from there anyway is that the LIT website under Life at LIT is very important for students if they want to access financial assistance, and also definitely checking up on their emails regularly if you have sent in documentation is essential for students if they want to access this fund. Now, we've all heard about the government laptop scheme at this stage. Could you briefly, are LIT part of this, or what is the story with this?
Okay, so it's been in the news a lot, and I believe a lot of students would have been notified even through Snapchat about the government lending scheme. That's my understanding. So it was announced as part of the response, a COVID-19 response, to supporting third levels and students. A lot of students will be aware, that there will be online learning, this year, and as part of their programs. So this was announced by the government, and what it was basically was that funding was going to colleges to purchase laptops, to support students. Again, there's eligibility criteria like the assistance fund for that. And I suppose just to stress that you're bringing it up now, Katie, about the laptop scheme, there's a limited number of laptops available for that. So students need to be aware of that as well. But again, if the application forms actually for the laptop scheme is opened, and it's opened until I think the first week in October, and students can go in there to the Access Service webpage as well, and you will see a section called the Government Laptop Scheme. But I suppose we know there's no way, obviously, that LIT can facilitate a laptop for everybody, so it's very much a needs basis again, where you have to fulfil the criteria for that.
Okay, brilliant. Students will definitely be delighted to hear about that anyway, that they can access
absolutely.
it if needs be. But as you said there that there's a limited number of laptops available, and there's not one for everyone in the audience. As
no, we're not like the Late Show there. No.
Exactly. Now, I have another question here for you that we get asked by many students all the time. Do queries about fees and grants go to the Access Service?
Good question. No, don't actually. Okay, fees and grants would be a separate section at LIT, and we have a fees and grants office at LIT. Again, like that, obviously we're trying to restrict the amount of people in contact with each other and everything with COVID-19. That would be my understanding, by appointment only to the fees and grants office. So they have a separate section on the website. So even if you go into our website and do a search, you'll find the fees and grants with an email address there to ask, any questions around we'll say the fees and the grants. They're a separate section, Kate, but a very good question. And that's something that comes up actually quite often from students about their fees and their grants. And the fees and grants, obviously, office would have the expertise around that. And, can I just say there as well, if there's SUSI related questions, obviously, SUSI as well, .ie, students can go into SUSI. There's a help desk support on the SUSI website that students can access as well about their grant, if it's particularly relating to SUSI.
Yeah, that's definitely a big question that we get asked as well, is about the SUSI grant. So you go straight to SUSI, as it's not related to LIT as such. So the final question that I have for you, and I think you've reiterated it many a time, but I'll ask it anyway. So if students want to find out more about the financial supports that LIT have to offer, where do they go?
Just to say it again, absolutely. If you go into the LIT website and you go across, there are a number of tabs there at the top of the website, and you will see Live at LIT. And under that, you will see the Access Service. I think actually it's the first tab there on top of the LIT website, that underneath that tab. And you just click on that and you go down along, and you will see all of those things like the Mature Student Book Lending Scheme, financial assistance, the Government Laptop Scheme, and all the information is there. And one of the things I forgot to mention actually, and I know there will be a separate piece for the HERE scheme. We're working on that at the moment as well. I'm hoping to work with you, Katie, on that as well. So that would be a separate recording, but there is a HERE scheme, book lending scheme as well. Just I forgot to mention. Actually, as we were talking earlier, it came into my head now. But again, students, if they can check out everything there, and it's going to be obviously a moving process as well this year. That students, I can't stress it enough, they need to keep up with the website and go back in every couple of days where they will see, if new information is coming up or if the application forms are up. Maybe some things aren't opened yet, like the Student Assistance Fund, as I said earlier, is not opened. But they need to get in and apply, obviously. And the weeks go very quickly, as we both know, when you're in third. So I would be saying to students, when you see a closing date on something as well, don't be waiting until the day before, because what could happen sometimes for students is they need to get their support and documentation organised and ready to be able to upload it, and then they're, for panic. Katie?
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, just fine. Yeah.
You can still see me. I seem to have lost you. Sorry about that. Sorry for a second. I just seem to have lost you there for a second. So if they just go into that website, as I said, and they have all the information there that they need. But I was just finishing up with the documentation. Apply in time. Don't be waiting until the morning of the closing date or the day before. Get your application. Know what you need to do. Know the documentation as well in advance of the closing date that you need to upload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely the 2 or 3 key things that I've taken from this chat with you, Caroline, is that the website is essential if you are looking for the financial assistance fund or any fund for that matter. On the website at Life at LIT. Definitely, if you do apply, to keep checking up on your emails. Don't leave it till last minute. They're definitely the key points that I took out of this chat
Yeah.
today. So that's all the questions that I have for you today, Caroline. And I'm delighted that you came on and joined us here today, because that we get so many questions all the time about this financial assistance fund and many other funds. And I think students will be delighted to hear about it and know that they can come and that they can apply. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for coming on and joining us here today. And
You're very welcome, Katie.
yeah, and I'm sure we'll be talking to the Here and There and many other facilities as well throughout the coming weeks. So thank you very much, Caroline, and we'll talk to you again.
Okay, thank you very much, Katie, for having us.